Well, hello there, my fourth grader friends. This is The Bravest Dog Ever, the true story of Balto. So, we've been reading the story Akiak, and the Iditarod race is actually based on a true event in history, as you may have figured out. And I wanted to read a short story that talks about one of the dogs that became the most famous for taking medicine to Nome, where a lot of people were getting sick. So this is called The Bravest Dog Ever. True story of Balto. All right. Bravest dog ever. This is a true story about a very brave dog. His name was Balto. The year, it was 1925. Balto lived in Nome, Alaska. Nome was a frontier town. Most of the year was buried under ice and snow. In winter, there was no way to travel through all that ice and snow. Not on planes or trains or boats or cars. The only way to travel in Alaska was by dog sled. Balto was a sled dog. He worked for a gold mining company not far from Nome. He carried food and tools to the miners. It was a good life for a sled dog. Balto's driver was named Gunner. Gunner made Balto his lead dog. The lead dog runs in front of the team. He follows the trail. All the other dogs do whatever the lead dog does. So the lead dog has to be the smartest and strongest dog of all. One cold winter day, a terrible thing happened in Nome. 2 children got very sick. Their parents called the doctor. He was the only doctor in the whole town. When the doctor saw the children, he was very worried. The children had a terrible sickness. It was called diphtheria. The doctor did not have the medicine he needed. Without the medicine, the children would die. Without the medicine, many other people in Nome would get diphtheria and die too. The doctor knew he had to get some medicine fast. The hospital in Anchorage, Alaska had the medicine, but Anchorage was 800 miles away. The doctors in Anchorage put the medicine on a train, but soon the train got stuck in the deep snow. The train was still 700 miles from Nome. The people of Nome held a meeting. Everyone was very scared. "What are we going to do?" asked the doctor. "We have to get that medicine." At last, someone said, "What about a dog sled relay? When one team of the dogs gets tired, a new team will be ready to take over." The room buzzed with excitement. That did seem like the quickest way to get the medicine. But the doctor frowned. "It will still take about 15 days. That's a long time." Too long. Maybe the doctor was right, but there was no other choice. So the mayor spoke over the radio. "Please help," he said. "We need the best drivers and dogs to help save our town." Gunner heard the mayor on the radio. Gunner knew he had the best dog team and the best lead dog. Balto would come to the rescue. So this map shows you where the medicine started in Anchorage and went on a train to here. Look how far it still has to go through snow and ice and mountains. On January 27th, 1925, the race to Nome began. 21 dog teams were in the relay. Each team waited at a different spot, so you can see all those spots. The first driver took the medicine from the train. He wrapped it in fur to keep it from freezing. Then he drove his dogs as fast as he could to the second stop. He made his run in good time. But soon the wind began to blow hard. The air grew colder. A blizzard was coming. It was one of the worst storms ever. Still, the race went on. Somehow, each dog team made it to the next stop. In one team, 2 dogs froze to death. So the driver hitched himself to the sled. He helped the rest of his dogs pull through the storm. Gunner and Balto waited at their stop in Bluff. They were going to run 31 miles from Bluff to Point Safety. That was the second to last part of the race. But the storm had slowed things down. Gunner had been waiting for 2 days. He did not sleep. He wanted to be ready to go as soon as the medicine arrived. Oops. At last, Gunner heard dogs barking. The medicine was here. He put it on the sled with a small stove and a little food. Then he hitched up his dogs. Balto stood proudly in the lead. Gunner cracked his whip. "Mush!" he cried. That meant go. The team ran out into the snowy night. At first, the team made good time, but soon snowdrifts blocked the trail. The dogs sank up to their necks in snow. They could not move. Some began to panic, but not Balto. He stayed calm. That helped the other dogs while Gunner dug them out of the snow. At last, the team was on its way again. Then the team crossed a frozen river. The dogs and the sled slipped and skidded on the ice. Oh no! Over went the sled. Gunner got up, but the medicine was gone. Wildly, Gunner dug for the medicine. He could not see it through the heavy snow, but at last he felt the package. He put it back on the sled. The team kept going across the river. Suddenly, Balto stopped short. "Mush, Balto!" shouted Gunner, but Balto did not move. Then Gunner saw why. The ice was cracking. If the team fell in the river, they would all drown. Balto had stopped just in time. "Smart dog," Gunner told him. Then he saw that Balto's feet were wet. If they froze, Balto would never walk again. Quickly, Gunner unhitched Balto from the sled. He led the dogs to a patch of powdery snow. Gunner rubbed Balto's paws in the powder. Soon they were dry. Balto was ready to go once more. Balto led the team around the cracking ice. At last they reached solid land again. Were they still on the trail? Gunner had no idea. The snow blew so hard, Gunner could not see his own hands. But Balto had run this trail many times before. Now it was all up to him. Finally, the storm died down. Gunner saw Point Safety just ahead. Balto did it, thought Gunner. He couldn't wait to warm his hands by a cozy fire. But all the lights were out at Point Safety. Was the next driver there? Gunner did not know, and there was no time to find out. So Gunner and Balto did not stop. They had never been so tired, but they raced on through the night toward Nome. It was just before dawn. The sky began to glow. In the town of Nome, everyone was sleeping. Gunner and his team pulled into town. They had made it. Balto was too tired to bark. They had been on the trail for 20 hours straight. They had driven 53 miles. Gunner took the medicine to the doctor. The doctor was surprised. He thought it would take 15 days to get the medicine. But Gunner delivered it after only 5.5 days. "Thank you, Gunner," said the doctor. "You are a hero." "Balto is the hero," said Gunner. "I could not have done it without him." The doctor went right to work. He gave the medicine to all the sick people. In a few days, they would be well, and the town of Nome was saved. All over America, people cheered for Balto. They read about his bravery in the newspaper. Balto was the most famous dog in the world. A year later, the people of New York City put up a statue of Balto. It still stands in Central Park. Lots of children play on the statue. They remember Balto, the bravest dog ever. So there's a little extra to it. This actually shows a picture of the statue that is in New York City in Central Park. It is still there today. It says, on the afternoon of December 15th, 1925, several hundred people gathered in New York City's Central Park. They were there to see the statue of Balto for the first time. So this is about almost a year after the event. The handsome statue was made of bronze by the sculptor F.R.G. Roth. It was built on top of a large rock near the park gate at 5th Avenue and 67th Street. In the crowd was Balto himself and the driver of the dog team, Gunnar Kaasen. The park commissioner praised Balto for being brave and loyal. He also said that Balto was lucky. Most heroes are not honored with statues till after they die. Balto didn't act very interested in all the fancy speeches. In fact, he nearly got into a fight when 2 other huskies came up to him. Still, Gunnar must have been proud to read the 3 words at the bottom of the statue: endurance, fidelity, intelligence. So I want you guys to get to see. This is a real picture of Balto and Gunnar. I'm going to zoom in on it a little bit for you. So that's an actual picture of Gunnar and Balto. That's the last part I'm going to read. So I just wanted you to know a little bit about Balto because the Iditarod race is based on that event when all these people and dogs went through Alaska and through a blizzard to try to save the town of Nome. So hopefully you enjoyed that and it gives you a little more information about Akiak and the Iditarod race. All right, if you haven't seen the movie Balto that Disney put out, it's not exactly a real story because it's a cartoon, but it's a lot of fun to watch. So maybe you could talk your parents into watching it this weekend. All right, enjoy.